Today, we explore a story that has been told for a very long time. It's simple in the way it unfolds, but somewhere along the way, it leaves behind a question that is not so easy to answer. Samsara Sagas presents Kannappa, the devotion that needed no teaching. There once lived a man who had never been taught how to pray. No one had shown him what devotion should look like or what it should avoid. The world he knew did not concern itself with such things. It moved to a different rhythm, one of hunger and survival, of instinct and response. His name was Kannappa, and he was a hunter. The forest was not unfamiliar to him. It was, in many ways, the only world he understood. Beyond offering him mere comfort, it offered him clarity. Every sound meant something, every movement mattered, and over time he had learned to read it, not with thought, but with attention. It was during one such day, with nothing particularly unusual about it, that he came upon something he had never seen before. Set quietly amidst the stillness stood a Shivalingam. There were no signs of worship around it, no flowers, no lamps, no offerings left behind. It seemed untouched, almost as though it had been waiting without being noticed. He did not know what it was called, nor did he try to understand it in any formal way. But something about the Shivalingam held Kannappa there a little longer than he expected. And when he left, it did not leave him. The next day he returned. This time he brought something with him, the best portion of what he had hunted. There was no reasoning behind the choice that he would have been able to explain. It simply felt natural that if something mattered, one did not approach it empty-handed. From that day on, this became a part of Kannappa's life. He would come, he would offer what he had, and he would remain for a while. When he wished to give water, he did not look for a vessel. He carried it in his mouth and let it fall over the lingam. When he felt it needed care, Kannappa stayed close, watchful in the way one is when something feels one's own. There was no structure to what he did, and yet nothing about it was careless. It was simply the only way he knew how to be. Unknown to him, there was another who visited the same place, a priest who had been offering prayers there with discipline and precision, returning each day to perform the rituals as they had been taught and preserved. But over time, the priest began to notice that something was not as it should be. The lingam was no longer as he had left it. Traces of meat, spit, and debris were caked over it, leaving it almost impossible to worship, at least in the eyes of the priest. He could not understand who was doing this or why, but what he saw troubled him. And so one day, the priest chose to watch. What he witnessed was not what he expected. It was on that very day that something changed. Kannappa arrived with the familiarity of someone who had been with the lingam all along. But when he came, his steps slowed almost immediately. There was something different, something that did not belong to the quiet familiarity he had come to associate with this place. As he drew closer, he saw it clearly. From one eye of the lingam, a thin line of blood was flowing. For a moment, he stood still. There was no confusion, just recognition. Something was wrong. Something was hurt. What followed was a decision, but not in the way we often understand it. There was no weighing of options, no hesitation shaped by doubt. There was only a response, direct and immediate, arising from the same place that guided everything else in his life. If something is in pain, you do what you can to ease it. He took an arrow, and with a steadiness that did not come from thought, Kannappa removed his own eye and placed it gently on the lingam. The bleeding stopped. The forest seemed to hold its breath. For a moment, there was a stillness that felt complete. And then, just as quietly, the other eye began to bleed. This time, the situation was different. Kannappa now had only one eye left, and with it came a simple, practical problem. If he were to give this one too, he would not be able to see where to place it. He paused. Nothing about Kannappa showed uncertainty. He was merely trying to understand how to continue. Then, with a clarity that belonged entirely to him, he placed his foot on the lingam, so it allowed him to mark the exact spot where the offering must go. It was not an act of irreverence. It was, in its own way, a solution, so that even in darkness he would not falter. And having done that, he prepared to give the only thing he had left. It was at that moment that Shiva appeared, and in keeping with Kannappa's own nature and life, he came with no spectacle or grandeur. He only carried a presence that made everything else fall away. Kannappa's act was stopped, not because it was incomplete, but because it was already enough. There was nothing more that needed to be offered, nothing more that needed to be proven. What had been given was not measured in form or correctness, but in its entirety, and in that it was whole. This story has been told for generations, and perhaps it endures not because of what happened, but because of what it reveals. There was no learning behind Kannappa's actions, no desire to be seen as devoted, no attempt to follow a path that had been laid out before him. There was only a simple, unfiltered response to something that mattered. Today, we have many ways of expressing devotion. We know the words, the rituals, the forms that have been carried forward with care. And there is value in them, in the discipline they offer and the meaning they hold. But somewhere within all of that, this story remains, quietly asking something of us. Untaught devotion. Kannappa was never taught how to worship, and yet nothing in his offering was lacking. What he gave did not come from knowledge, but from an instinct to respond fully to what mattered. Perhaps not everything meaningful in life needs to be learned first. Some things reveal themselves only when we stop trying to get them right and simply show up as we are. The limits of correctness. There was another who worshipped with care, discipline, and with everything done as it should be. And yet, what appeared wrong on the surface held a depth that could not be measured by rules. It's easy to mistake correctness for sincerity, but the two are not always the same. What is right in form may not always be complete in spirit. What we're willing to give. In the end, Kannappa did not pause to calculate what he might lose. He responded only to what was needed and gave as far as he could go. And perhaps that's where the story leaves us. Not with an answer, but with a question. When something truly matters, do we hold back or do we give without keeping count? This was Kannappa, a man who was never taught how to pray and yet held nothing back. A tale from Samsara Sagas. While the story ends here, the journey continues within you.